Every year, 6% of Bahamian
children are born with a heart defect.
We at Cable 12
and the Nassau Guardian decided
to lend a helping hand
in creating more awareness to the cause of saving little hearts.
One surgery
can cost up to
$250,000.
We at Cable 12
and the Nassau Guardian hear their cry.
We are asking you
to make a donation to these efforts.
Embrace the opportunity
and save a little heart.
Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and this is NB12 for Monday, February 18th, 2013, broadcasting from the Cable 12 studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, gay marriage advocates weigh in on the Chief Justice's signal that it may soon come before the courts. The Deputy Prime Minister defends government's 10,000 jobs campaign promise. The man police believe is behind a massive car scam charged with nearly 50 counts of fraud, and proposed budget cuts at the College of the Bahamas could lead to higher tuition for all students. We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Your NB12 starts right now. Joining us. The local gay and lesbian community is in agreement with Chief Justice Sir Michael Barnett that it is only a matter of time before the courts have to address the issue of same-sex marriage in the Bahamas. However, one leading gay and lesbian activist contends that Bahamian law doesn't make same-sex marriage illegal, but homosexuals are being denied the right, causing many of them to flee the country to marry those they love. Paige McCartney reports.
Although the Rainbow Alliance has been disbanded since 2008, former President Aaron Green is still vocal about the discrimination Bahamian homosexuals reportedly experience. Case in point, same-sex marriages. She agrees that there needs to be public discussion on the issue, with the courts taking a definitive position. However, she says it isn't illegal because the Marriage Act doesn't define what a spouse is. In fact, church leaders have in recent weeks called for a definition of spouses as the Constitutional Reform Commission takes suggestions leading up to the constitutional referendum later this year. But Green says without that definition in place, same-sex couples are being denied a right she believes they already have.
Gay marriage may already be legal, and without a clear determination of the law by a judge, we won't know. Right? But we had the position that we wouldn't challenge the law just for the sake of challenging the law. Members of RAB and members of the gay community at wide have a sincere respect for the institution of marriage and didn't want to just challenge the law for the sake of challenging the law. But we announced and we were willing to support any couple that authentically wanted to get married.
Earlier today, NB12 spoke with a gay Bahamian man via Skype who just last year moved to Toronto, Canada to get married to another man. Mindell Small said he always wanted to get married since he was a little boy, but never knew how he would be able to since he is gay and same-sex marriages are not recognized in the Bahamas. Showing us his marriage license and wedding band, Small said he married his college boyfriend in an intimate ceremony on October 6th last year, and he's never been happier.
People don't like the term same-sex marriage. Even though it is same-sex marriage, it tends to focus on the individuals rather than the equality for people who are in love with one another and should be able to get married to the person that they love based on their sexual orientation. I don't think a heterosexual should be forced to marry someone of the same sex, and vice versa. A homosexual should not be forced to marry someone of the opposite sex to satisfy society, so to speak.
And Small, who is also a vocal activist for the gay, lesbian, and transgender community in the Bahamas, says it's not a big deal in Canada, where same-sex marriages have been legal for about a decade. He said many Bahamians are neutral on the matter, saying they don't care because it doesn't affect them or anyone in their families. But he says everyone should be concerned about human rights.
If somebody's rights are being trampled on in a country, wherever that country may be, that should be a concern for everyone, because one day it's that person, the next day it could be you. You never know. And everyone should be considered equally under the law. And if that is not happening, then that's something that should be corrected. And I think that it's time. As you can see, the whole world now is moving into the direction of looking at marriage from a perspective of equal treatment. That's why they're calling it marriage equality.
But according to Green, same-sex couples have already gotten married in the Bahamas in churches that were willing to marry them. She said there is confusion in the Bahamas about what marriage is, as defined by the church and the state.
Marriage is an institution celebrated by the church, but it is also a relationship defined by contract, by the law, by the government. And so while a church is a non-governmental body, a church can do what it wants. So if we say we made a declaration that gay marriage is legal, not a church in this country would be forced to marry someone if they didn't want to. The state would be responsible for overseeing that contract of marriage. And I say that to say that we have married gay couples in the country right now because there are churches that have been willing to provide the sacrament and participate in the sacrament of marriage for these couples.
At the end of the day, Green says the gay community understands how the church feels about homosexuals, but she says the church's feelings about homosexuals should not infringe upon their rights.
Well, in other news, the latest labor force survey shows nearly 2,000 jobs were added to the economy between May and November 2012. That's just a 6-month period, but it's a far cry from the 10,000 jobs Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis said government would create in its first year in office. The opposition called it yet another unfulfilled campaign promise. However, Davis defended his initial claim, saying government is working assiduously to create jobs. Vonique Toot reports.
In less than 3 months, the Progressive Liberal Party will celebrate the 1-year anniversary of its May 7th general election victory. However, Bahamians are still waiting on the 10,000 jobs that Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis promised that the Christie administration would create within its first year in office. Job creation was one of the PLP's many campaign promises. The latest jobs figures show employment increased by less than 1% between May and November 2012. That's 1,925 new jobs. However, 140 Wyndham workers were laid off just over a week ago. We asked Davis whether he regrets making such an ambitious promise that his government may not be able to fulfill.
No, we don't regret that because we think we will be able to create those jobs. We don't regret it because we are working assiduously to do that. We are trying to expand the economy. We are doing so. We are jump-starting it by ensuring that the stimulus work we are doing impact the unemployment.
Some observers were doubtful that government could in fact create 10,000 jobs in just 1 year, especially considering 18,800 jobs were added to our economy over a 5-year period under the previous Christie administration. However, Davis says he believes the slight increase in employment shows government is making a difference.
It had some incremental impact, as you would have noted from the numbers that have just been released. The unfortunate situation of the 150 laid off by Wyndham was not anticipated by us, and we have identified all those persons who have been laid off, and we are working aggressively to see how we can have them redeployed in the workplace.
Free National Movement Chairman Darren Cash isn't buying it, though.
Yet again, it is one of those classic examples of say anything to get elected, even though you know full well there's no way on God's green earth that you're going to be able to deliver it. The good news is the Bahamian people understand today that that is exactly what Mr. Christie and his government were all about. No, he is not going to be able to create those jobs.
When asked about Davis's 10,000 jobs claim last year, Prime Minister Perry Christie said he would not be pinned down on a jobs figure. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
A 31-year-old man and 23-year-old woman were charged in the magistrate's court today in connection with a recent car scam. Authorities allege scam artists used fake names and placed ads in local newspapers to pocket money used to purchase vehicles. Shane Mackey of South Beach was charged with nearly 50 counts of fraud by false pretenses pretenses and conspiracy to commit fraud by false pretenses. It is alleged that Mackey, while concerned with others, obtained nearly $40,000 from unsuspecting victims by means of false pretenses between August 2012 and January 2013. He pleaded not guilty to all charges and elected to have the matters heard in the magistrate's court. Mackey first appeared before Magistrate Darren Roll Davis for most of those charges. The remaining charges were read by Magistrate Guillemina Archer. Both magistrates denied bail given the nature of the charges and considering that Mackey recently served a 5-year sentence in Her Majesty's prison for similar offenses. Meantime, 23-year-old Kayleeser Cartwright was charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud by false pretenses and 1 count of abetment to commit fraud. She was granted $5,000 bail with 1 surety.